Hey, paisans, the time has come. On the air since 2009, the independently produced, non-FCC compliant champ of video game talk podcasting. Here comes Tiger Claw Radio. Here's your host, Critical Failure.
Good morning, everybody. It's Tiger Claw Radio, the first show of the new year that's being recorded on the 6th of January, 2021. Thank you for joining us. Let's see what we got for today. I opened up an old external hard drive that I haven't touched in quite a while, and I pulled out a couple of directories that I had from back in the 8-Bit Collective days. Now, it's been a few years since I've revisited these on the show before, but I have done it. Basically, we're looking at maybe 2 gigs or so of chiptunes that I got off of the 8-Bit Collective site back when it was around. And that site closed in, 2011? Or maybe in 2010. So we're talking about 10-plus-year-old tracks, a lot of which are now extinct, because there's not much of a record in terms of what was on the 8-Bit Collective. We've got like a big torrent that's like 10 gigs, and that's pretty much it. So if these happen to be on that torrent, that's really the only record. Unless the artists themselves have reposted them elsewhere, which happened in a couple of cases. But the problem is some of the tracks that didn't get a ton of shine, right, were really good. And subsequently, because they didn't, carve themselves a place in history, they're sort of lost in time. So I like to revisit this every once in a while. Just to check out some of the tracks that were, in my opinion, really good. So we're going to start with not end credits. What was the one I had locked and loaded here? Ah, yes. This is probably my favorite example. Now, I'm not sure if you can find this by Googling or not. Be interested to hear. But this is it's the Green Hill track from Sonic the Hedgehog. Remade for the Game Boy, but not just remade with Little Sound DJ so you can hear it with the Game Boy hardware. This is like a down tempo version, almost like a Sonic the Hedgehog cutscene if it were made on the Game Boy. I really dig it. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Stick with us. Let's do one more from the old archive. I don't know. Just feeling chiptunes this morning. What can I say? Okay, so I grew up with the Saturday morning cartoons. That's another thing that's sort of gone from this generation. We used to, if you're in my age group, you probably remember racing out of bed on Saturday mornings, running downstairs and turning on the TV and watching cartoons. They used to show a big block of cartoons from probably like 6 in the morning all the way up until noon. I remember 12 o'clock was when they ended. And if you got up early enough, you could see the G.I. Joe cartoon, which was my favorite. But you had to get up really early for that one. So I slept through it quite a bit. And here's one that if you're from that era, you will immediately recognize. We'll discuss afterwards. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Stick with us. That file's only 60 seconds long, and I have to think that one would be available somewhere. The artist is listed as Capcom Poser from the album Bleep Blips. I have to think if you were skilled enough with Google Foo or motivated enough, it could be found. But that was always a favorite of mine. And as far as I know, when that came out, that was not like a charting song. 8-Bit Collective used to have like silver, gold, bronze for the most downloaded or liked tracks of that week or whatever. So a lot of times people would come in and you would just look at those 3 charting tracks. If you were to like drop in once a week or so, that's how you would do it to make sure you got something good. In order to find a song like this, you would have to either search specifically, or you'd have to just hang out on the front page and watch as songs dropped in from the top and then dropped off the bottom. Which is what I often did in those days, because this was pre-Steam for me. Like Steam was around, but I didn't have a Steam account, and if I did, I was running like an old laptop. I wouldn't have had the hardware to really play any games, so I would just sit there on 8-Bit Collective, listen to a few tracks, and by the time I was done listening to a few tracks, I would reload the front page, and there would be more to listen to, and I would just do that for hours. No site ever quite took its place. There's been a few attempts to try and recreate it. The U Collective and the chipmusic.org. Battle of the Bits, I think, has come the closest. But something about Battle of the Bits is different. Just the idea, like, wanting to get on the soundtrack, or wanting to get on the track list of the Bandcamp release, the whole ranked order. I don't know. It doesn't feel as grassroots or as friendly as 8-Bit Collective did. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I see people like talking to each other and making pals on that site, so maybe it's just me. Alright. I got to hang out with Hemrock a couple nights back, and we did on Discord. And we played Magic the Gathering using this cockatrice program that Swingle told me about. We had a great time. After a few games of Magic the Gathering, we kind of like drifted and started just like talking about stuff. And he created, and we've talked about this on the show, quite a bit. He's mentioned it in his emails, but he has a level pack of Jetpack Christmas levels. So to put it in context, Jetpack, if you're not familiar, it's a side-scrolling game for MS-DOS. It takes place entirely on one screen. but it had a level builder, and a game with a good, solid, usable level builder back in those days. It was really rare. There were a couple that did it, but Jetpack's level builder kind of stood alone at the time. So they made a Christmas version of this game. It's the same game. It just has, instead of playing the Jetpack Man, which kind of looks like Commander Keen, if you ask me, you play as Santa Claus. Now, there was a shareware version that was available that also had a level builder, but it only let you build one level. So the way we did it is he made it so that haven't done that on there in a while. He made it so that you take the one level that you can build and you rename it to something else, and then you take whichever level you actually want to play and you rename that to whatever the active level is. So it requires some file name shuffling. I feel like this would be a perfect thing to get into QBasic and write a program with a simple menu where it's like, here's the list of files, type in the file you want to use, alright, and then press enter, and it will rename that to the active file, and then rename the active file to something else. Can't be too hard. The command to rename things in DOS is just REN space, and then one file, and then space another file. I feel like with the simplest if-then logic in QBasic, that could be done. That might be fun to do. All right. Yeah, there's there's a good video in there. I haven't made it yet, but the levels that he made are really tough, but also really fun. And the thing is, this whole thing about the shareware version and trying to get around getting the full version, I have no problem getting the full version. This is something that Hemrock mentioned. He was like, how do you even buy this game? The company was called Software Creations, which I looked up at one point in the evening. It's now defunct. They changed their name to something else, but they're gone now. Let's see if I can figure it out again. Software Creations. But when we were hanging out, I called the phone number that was listed in the order, the document that comes along with it with the order info. Most of those old DOS games did that. They'd be like, look, if you want to buy the full version, there's a text file that has the phone number if they have one, or how to connect to the bulletin board system, or a fax number, because that was a thing in those days. And this was no exception. It had that document, but of course all those numbers were dead. Alright, so we've got Software Creations, which was formed in 1985, changed its name to Acclaim Studios Manchester, and disbanded in 2002. So this has been gone quite a while, and their parent company is Acclaim Entertainment, which disbanded in 2004. I don't see any place that has inherited the intellectual property, right? So it's not like Commander Keen, where that company may be gone, but you can still go to Steam because somebody bought the rights to it. As far as I know, Digital Decay, I think, as Hemrock used to call it, has applied here. Oh, hang on. I just did a search on DuckDuckGo by Jetpack Christmas, just to see what's up. And I got a mixed bag of results of Jetpack related items on Etsy and a couple of links to abandonware sites where you can get the shareware version of the Jetpack Christmas. For example, DOSGames.com has this for its description. It's a special promotional freeware version of the excellent Jetpack game that was released in 1993 to promote Software Creation's full version Jetpack game and their other software. That's not entirely accurate, because this was its own shareware / fullware setup in and of itself. But here's where it gets crazy. Down at the very end, it says Jetpack 2 was recently released by Adept Software, almost 20 years after the original game. Now, I don't know when this listing was added. See, the game came out in 1993. That's what is listed here. So, 2013, I guess, is when this was listed. The link is still good. There's a site that says called jetpackhq.com. Sure enough, there's a trailer for Jetpack 2, and it's the same game. You know, the graphics are slightly updated, 2013 game. Jetpack 2 is a retro micro-platformer in the style of Jumpman and Lode Runner. You can play Jetpack 2 online if you have Flash. There is an editor. Getting to know the editor. This looks like it's entirely online now. Play online. Get Adobe Flash Player. I've uninstalled Flash because Flash reached end of life. Wow, that's harsh. It's not even like... Yeah, there's no... It's not like an offline version exists, as far as I know. It's just here it is, and that's it. That's sad. Flash didn't die a long time ago, either. Yikes. Alright, let's click Get Adobe Flash Player and see if you even still can. Nope, it takes you to the Adobe Flash Player End of Life General Information page, which was last updated December 2nd, 2020, so 1 month ago. Some users may continue to see reminders from Adobe to uninstall the Flash from their system. See below for more details. What if I don't want to uninstall Flash? What if I just want to play Jetpack 2? Join the community and share your own levels. There's a community. When I click community, what happens? It just goes back to the main screen. I have to assume if this site was from 2013, any community would be like a traditional old school internet forum that you would have to sign up for. So whatever their forum was, much like TCR's forum. I had a forum like that for many years. My forum eventually just closed down because that was the hangout spot for TCR years ago. And eventually it just went dead. And after it went dead, it stayed up for years. After that, you could still at least go back and see all the old topics and like high score challenges and stuff we used to do. This is like back in the Gooch and the Douchebag era and stuff like that. Back when Jerry Terrifying was like really getting all his fame from Mondo Coolcast and all the awesome legendary podcasting was happening. Not everyone had a podcast at that time. It was harder to get your podcast out there. So it was a good time. I remember when that went down. That was really tough on me. I missed that. I didn't have like a backup of that or anything. Gexup had a lot of posts on that before he disappeared. People floated in and they floated out. Sean, that's how we met Sean. Sean first reached out to be a DM in our D&D game on those forums. But the point I'm making is that when you find sites like this Jetpack HQ that have those old forums, or did at one point have them, in a lot of cases the forums are gone. A lot of cases. The only site I can think of where they're still up, and I'm talking about small individual sites that have dedicated forums. The only site I can think of is the ZZT site. Z2, which was like the ZZT community. I think, and I'm going there now, I think their forums are still up. Give me a second here. Forums. Yeah, their forums are still around. I use them as an example because their forums were powered by PHPBB, which is just, that was the site you could go to and you could sign up and they would drop they would give you a few options, and then you would have a link that you could add to your site, and anybody could start a site and add forums. That was how I set up my TCR forums. Actually, was from the ZZT forums. And these look like, let's see, the last post, December 22nd, 2020. That's not that long ago. Oh no, January 6th, 2021. That's today. Who posted today? Linux port of reconstruction now in C/C++. They're talking back and forth about porting some sort of ZZT related program. It's all the same people too. I'm looking at the names of the individuals posting here. It's the same people who were posting here back in 2005 when I didn't have an internet capable computer at home, and I used to check this forum at the library. I would go to the library and check this forum and my email, and then move on. And I would get to the library on the public bus because I did not have a car. So I would wait a half an hour plus, to go, I don't know, just a handful of miles down the road to the library, just to check my email, which was usually empty, and this forum. That's a different time, man. I know I'm like going down the rabbit hole of like old forums and how it used to be, but yeah, seeing this old Jetpack site kind of takes me back. Interestingly enough, though, at least, even though this seems to be not playable, there is a trailer you can watch, Jetpack 2 official trailer, and that means that somebody has the rights to Jetpack. So I'm hoping, if I can find some sort of company with contact information. Oh, hang on. That's the trailer. Looks like a good game too. I mean, it has a very dated graphic style, like almost like a Wacky Wheels sort of graphic style that probably was cool in 2013. But it looks fun. I don't know, I wish I could play it. Tricky puzzles. Like the chipset is almost exactly the same, like the graphical chipset, but the objects are all redrawn but recognizable, which is cool. Level editor seems to work the same. Looks like there was a place to according to the trailer, there was some sort of place to share levels. Right, there used to be like a level, like almost like a workshop kind of deal. Yeah, second quarter 2014, jetpackhq.com. But I don't see a company name. Long awaited seems like an understatement. Oh my gosh, the original was my childhood. Why didn't I hear about this sooner? Awesome. Popular 1993 classic game Jetpack. Jetpack came out in 1983. These are just the YouTube comments from 10 plus years ago. 11 months ago. Are you still working on the game? Jetpack 2 has been released. Play the demo at Jetpack HQ. When is the release date? Sorry to say, but this is not much Jetpack. People who played Hero from Activision on C64 see that easily. You're not fooling anybody with your ripoff. Wow, you're referencing the wrong Jetpack game. Dr. Jacoby UK literally quit being a hater. It's an obvious remake of Jetpack, the first game, which came out in 1993. The game you're referencing may have ripped off Jetpack, but that's okay. No, I don't think so at all. I think the game this person's referencing is a completely separate game, also called Jetpack. That's the problem with these games that have one-word names. There's probably more than one game that came out called Jetpack. Especially if you go back to the 80s, when you could really do that. Back in the 80s, you could release a game called Duck Hunt for MS-DOS and not get a speck of trouble. I'm gonna call my game Super Mario Brothers. Wow, 25 minutes in. Golly. I don't know how I got here. I really went down the rabbit hole with this. Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to do some more Google searching. But some company made this. So, unlike a UK developer with the same name, this particular software creation has published several notable DOS games such as Hexagon and Night Raid. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if I kept scraping, we could find something, but I'm also reaching a point where results are not readily available. So, to do any further research would just be like quiet time here on the air. So there you go. We've reached the end of this train of thought. Okay, going back to my 8-Bit Collective folders, a couple of the tracks here I recognize from other places since then. This particular one is from Fighter X, and it's called Umbra. I have to think that this must have been posted multiple times in multiple places, and it just happened to be that one day when I was clicking around on 8-Bit Collective, they posted it that day. Because when I first look at this, my knee-jerk reaction is, wow, this was when this song first came out. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. But this is Fighter X, who makes top-quality chiptunes. This is a name you can definitely find. Some quick Google searching, and there's a lot of stuff out there. You're listening to TCR. Stick with us. Back again here on TCR. I just got an email that Cookie Fonster has a new one out. Cookie Fonster's a chiptune artist that we've played here on the air. He was somebody who I just found cruising around Bandcamp. I played some tunes, and then he found the show and was like, "Hey, thanks for playing that." So because of that little interaction, somebody who I tip my hat to. But we have, let's see, Pay What You Want. It's 8 tracks. I see some Undertale covers. I see some Sonic covers. I see some tracks I don't recognize. Yeah, this is. If we weren't already 32 minutes in, I'd be grabbing a copy of this to listen to today. So I think maybe next week. Every 8-bit cover I've made published on my YouTube channel in 2020 that isn't from Sonic Robo Blast 2, sorted in chronological order, 8 tracks. This is my 4th annual 8-bit cover album. Be sure to click on the track names for commentary on the covers. Most tracks arranged with Famitracker VRC sound chip. Track 6 arranged with a 2A03 sound chip. Released January 6, 2021. That's today. Yeah. Pretty sweet. If you want some chip tunage. Alright, boys and girls, time for the fail bag. Let's start with good old Hemrock. He says, "Hey, Paisan, Happy New Year. Thank you for another episode, and thank you for reading my email. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Just download the Equilibrium album. Thanks for the tip. I really like the artwork for the release. That story about the Work Boy add-on for the original Brick Game Boy is pretty fascinating. I read the IGN article you mentioned. There's also a 27-minute YouTube video recently released about this product on the Did You Know Gaming channel. It's a rather good documentary, but wow, that Work Boy, the keyboard looks ridiculously small. It's hard to imagine using it effectively for an extended period of time. The keys are about the size of pencil erasers." Alright, gonna stop you for a second. Let's talk a little bit about a couple of things here. First of all, I don't know what it is about Did You Know Gaming, but so Did You Know Gaming became like the target of some jokes a while back. People just making parody images. I'm not sure if you were fully aware of this gaming, where they would make up pretend Did You Know Gaming facts. But since I found that out, something about that channel just makes me laugh. Also, I would argue that the Work Boy was not intended for long-term use. At least I don't think so. Now, to be fair, I didn't read the entire article, but these PDA, assuming it's supposed to be a PDAs were just like, all right, I'm going to take some quick notes and do this, that, or the other. There were, I can't imagine waiting for, a Game Boy to fire up and software to load in order for you to write down a single phone number or consult a book for a single phone number. But, I don't know. Yeah, it's... Yeah, you're right. It does look small, though. Let's read on. He says, "It's great to hear that a TCR chiptune compilation may be coming out soon. Do you have an ETA on that?" I don't know. I just got out my 8-bit collective tracks, and I've really been enjoying listening to them. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to do one real soon. I don't have an ETA because it's not like written into a schedule, but I feel like it's something we could do relatively soon. Back to the email. "I know you're not much into New Year's resolutions, and usually neither am I. However, this year I do have one that is video game related. For the year 2021, I resolved not to purchase a single video game. Yes, you heard me right. Not a single cent towards video games this year. I really want to force myself to appreciate and play what I have. Woo. My back catalog is ridiculously large, but with that said, I made sure to make a bunch of last-minute purchases from the Nintendo eShop, Steam, and for the first time in my life, the PlayStation Network on the 31st of December 2020. Notable pickups include your famed tabletop simulator, Suikoden 2, and the newly released English translation of the first Fire Emblem game for the Famicom. Do you have any New Year's resolutions?" I do. Mine are not quite as grandiose. Lose weight, feel great, new year, new me. That's my New Year's resolution. I did this very successfully in 2018. I went from 208 pounds down to 167. And man, it felt good, and I was in good shape. And and I didn't gain all of that back, but I'm back up to 191. So I'm on my way. So something has to be done, otherwise it's back to Fatty Town. Not that I'm really worried about looking great, but I want to live longer. So trying to stave off the old diabetes, So watching what I eat, and that's my New Year's resolution. So historically, you're right. I never really did much for New Year's resolutions. And in April, when the Catholics would start talking about Lent, I would often joke that for Lent, I gave up my New Year's resolutions. Back to the email. You mentioned getting DOS shareware off the old shareware disks back in the day. Did you know that archive.org has cataloged many of those disks? See the link here. No, I did not. Let's take a look, see if they have the big blue disk. It's loading right now. MS-DOS shareware Frostbite, Gunchuk, Frostbite F-Menu 5A. Wow, look at that. Way to go, Hemrock. That is awesome. I'm seeing a lot of MS-DOS shareware Frostbite, and then it has like a 6-letter or 6 or 7 character label in all caps. Alphanumerical. Most times it's not a word. Something very much akin to like a license plate. And then I assume that's what they labeled the disk. This is really awesome. MS-DOS shareware autopsy. And there's a dead person on the cover. That is really neat, man. I did not know about that. Thank you for that link. Back to the email. You stated in the last TCR that retro news is an oxymoron. I get what you're saying. However, this is the flip side to the retro gaming news, or more specifically retro gaming podcasts. All in all, they're just as relevant today as they will be 5 years into the future or past. That makes them easier to enjoy a second time. I still like picking up older episodes of the Retronauts podcast and giving them a whirl. Are there any podcasts, gaming or otherwise, that you wouldn't mind going back to and giving a re-listen? One podcast that comes to mind is Pixel Dreams, which was a retro gaming show back in 2010. They had great potential, but it only made it to episode 12 and then they disappeared. Fortunately, they still have a few of their old episodes up on Podomatic. I found their old website that has some contact info, so I sent them an email to see if the early episodes are still in existence. Let's keep our fingers crossed I get a response. I don't know. So I look back at the podcasts I was most interested in. I probably listened to the most of a podcast called Go Nintendo, which is actually still around. I think they're still around. Let's take a look. www.gonintendo.com. Spell that right? Let's see. No, I did not spell that right. Go Nintendo. Let's see. Go Nintendo. What are you waiting for? Yeah, they're still around. Podcast episode 803. Yeah, they've been around a long time. So they're not defunct, so I don't know if this applies. But the thing is, I'm not super. Oh wow. I'm not super into what Nintendo's doing, modern day Nintendo, but I would go back and listen to some of their old episodes from like the Wii era. That's like when I was getting into podcasting. The Wii was just coming out, right? I don't think it was called the Wii yet, right? It was still using its code name. I can't even remember what its code name was. The Revolution or something like that. But I remember people were obsessing over the controller, because pictures of the controller had just come out. This is what was going on like the week I sat down to record the very first TCR. But I just arbitrarily went to the Go Nintendo site and listened to this. Netflix apps removed from the 3DS and Wii U eShops. Service to both will be discontinued on June 30th, 2021. That's the beginning of the end. Netflix is going away on two of Nintendo's legacy platforms. Nintendo has confirmed that the Netflix app's been yanked from both the 3DS and Wii U eShops. Although those who have already downloaded the apps will still be able to do so. If you do have the app or plan on re-downloading, you're not going to get much time with it. Nintendo has also confirmed that the service for both applications will cease to function on June 30th, 2021. That means you'll have to watch Netflix on another platform. You could always just download the app on Switch. Oh, wait. That's funny because when my family was first getting into Netflix, like the streaming service, we watched it on the Wii. We didn't have a PS3 yet, which is to date still our like family streaming machine is our PS3. And the Wii, if you think back to that era, was notorious for being the one console of that generation that did not have HD graphics. It was like, what, 420p or something like that? 420p. That's funny. So I'm seeing, when I see this article, I'm seeing the same thing that happened to the Wii, the end of life cycle unfold for the Wii U. Which is one of the reasons I have a hard time getting down with modern day consoles, is because when this happens, the games are going to enter this phase where you'll buy a game, and granted it'll be really cheap, but the features that come along with it, it might be able to do an eighth of what it originally did. Right? Think back to the Wii. I remember there's a game on the Wii that I was excited for called The Conduit, which is like a pretty generic first-person shooter, but there weren't many of them on the Wii at the time. And this was like a first-person shooter that was being staged to be like a Halo kind of game with an online community and everything. Well, the multiplayer for the platform is gone completely now. So, yes, you can buy the game still, but they were selling it on the idea of playing internet multiplayer, which is now gone. So, I mean, you got to bear that in mind. That's ultimately why I sold Tatsunoko vs. Capcom for the Wii, which is like now considered like a rare Wii game. Oop, hang on. That's my 7 a.m. alarm. That means it's time to start my day. Yeah, I bought Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. I know I've told these on the air. I'm so sorry. But I was really excited because that's, if you're into like Street Fighter and those kinds of games, this is one game that wasn't really, ported anywhere else because it had a weird button layout for a Capcom game. I bought this game for the Wii, and the week after I bought it was when they discontinued the online service. You couldn't play it online anymore. Still a cool game, but at the time I was really into Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, or Street Fighter Third Strike on the PS3, which as far as I know still has functioning multiplayer, despite now being 2 generations old, although it's been a while since I tried it. Yeah, so that just sat around collecting dust and collecting value, and then eventually I was like, alright, time to clean house, and I sold it. I see that playing out all again with the Wii U, and it's going to happen soon with the Switch. The Switch is just a year or so off from seeing the same thing happen. I only made it halfway through that email. Let's get back to the email. Which window had the email? Oh my gosh. Yeah, here we go. Okay, sorry about that. Thanks for recommending the original Master of Orion. I played it a bit this weekend. It has some major differences from the second one, so such as not having improvements to build a la Civilization. There's also only one planet per solar system, like the multiple planets per solar system you would often find in Master of Orion 2. So far I've settled about 5 planets, and I've had a few run-ins with AI players. Seems pretty fun, but I'm just getting the hang of it. The whole slider mechanic of changing production, tech, shipbuilding, takes some getting used to. Yes, it does. It was great hanging out this past Saturday. Thanks for showing me those RPG Maker games in progress. I hope they will bear fruit. I had planned to talk about those on the air a little bit this week, but not going to happen. You also briefly showed me the Adventure Construction set later that night. I dug through my backup hard drive and found the Adventure Creation Kit, which appears to be the ACS's spiritual and more versatile successor. It's somewhat like a prototype or a proto RPG Maker. Some actually designed for an immersive version of Metal Gear for DOS using software. Check it out here, and we'll tab that open. Speaking of user-created content, are you familiar with the Final Fantasy VII demake using Famicom version of Final Fantasy III? You can find out more about it here, and we'll click that open in a new tab. No, I am not. Sounds good, though. Let's have a moment of silence for MagFest 2021. I suppose this Thursday would have been the first day of MagFest. However, it looks like they're trying to pull off a virtual MagFest event this month, starting the 22nd. You can read more about it here. The details will be scant. Not really sure if what this virtual MagFest will look like. Regardless, I'm already looking forward to MagFest 22, provided that it happens. It looks like PAX South has already been canceled for 2021. Do you have any gaming goals this year? Do you have any specific goals for your podcast or your YouTube show in 2021? Take care. Keep rolling retro. Hemrock. Good to hear from you, brother. You got a few things to unpack here. First of all, let's talk about the show in 2021. Just keep it fresh. Just keep it fresh. I want to make it so that I can sit down and do one of these and have places to go, with discussions and not just be... How can I put this? Okay, so there have been some episodes of TCR in the past where it's like, I probably should not have been recording an episode that week. Didn't really have much to go on, and it kind of showed in the episode. This year, I want to have enough things in the bag, segments, structures, loops, whatever, things I can do to push things along, that I can keep it fresh, which is a pretty general statement, but we're going to see. In terms of gaming goals, I don't really know. Don't really know. Keep having fun. Keep playing video games. Actually, that takes me to a really good goal. Keep playing video games and doing less kvetching, I think is the word, about video games, and just playing them and enjoying them. And less worrying about people who disagree with my taste in video games. That's Hemrock's email. Now, he sent a follow-up to that. Give me a second. Worthwhile. He also... Okay, first of all, last week we talked about the Worthwhile DOS Games image that's been floating around for several years on the internet. He sent a 7 megabyte version of that same image, which I think I ate up all of our airtime this week. So we might... Oop, hang on. We might do that one next week. Give me a second here. Yeah, failbag adamantium. Oh yeah, I meant to attach this promo for the Pixel Dreams podcast. It's good old-fashioned silliness. Feel free to completely ignore this email or just have a listen yourself. Cheers. Let's have a listen. Pixel Dreams promo. Alright, how can I get this open? The mixing board should pick it up, so you should be able to hear it as well. Open with AIMP.
Pixel Dreams is back! With all new high-resolution 2.5D graphics,
No way!
digital joystick control, fully up-resed retextured maps,
What?
and it's all 1080p HD TV compatible.
Holy,
Buy it on your local internet download service for only $19.99.
that's a steal, dude!
Relive the glory days with Drew Zimmerman and Eric Grabett like you never had before. Act now and we'll include not one, but 3 downloadable content packs featuring the Pixel Dreams crew in Spanish,
El Supana Metroid.
Russian,
Como Paraspa Camera.
and Swahili. Act now before this offer goes away and get totally rich.
The click after Swahili really got me. That's pretty good. Oh, man. Good times. Thanks for sending that. Alright, that's Hemrock's email. Hope you're doing good, brother. Thanks for writing in. Let's check in to see if there were any comments from YouTube this past week. Speaking of MagFest, I found all my old pictures and footage from MagFest last year, and I was going through and finding stuff I could post. I posted that quick clip of Sean and I at the console museum, and he found a weird version of the TurboGrafx 16, and he was just talking about It's like Legendary Axe or 2 or something like that. That's good times. I like that one because when you watch that video, you can see how excited we were. Like, we weren't tired at all. Like, you could see that there was more things to do than we had time for, which is an awesome feeling. That's what I remember the most. What keeps me going back to MagFest is feeling like that. It's good times. Yeah, so now we're looking at... yeah, here we go. The YouTube comments, which still happen. If you want to interact with the show, just head over to YouTube, leave a comment. Drop back to 1 week ago. Everyone seemed to like the toe ball video, despite being really janky. I was like, I have this video of me playing toe ball from, like a long time ago. I wonder why I never posted this. Then you start watching it. What are you going to do? Okay. Happy brother. Wow. Happy New Year, brother. This is from Desmond 101. Wishing you and the fam all the best. Great tunes once again. I remember those Game Boy Color ports of Commander Keen and Duke Nukem. They were nearly unplayable. Lol. Yes, they were. Mecha Menace writes, they're playable. Likeable is another question. Fair enough. Desm, hope you're doing well, man. Mecha Menace writes, haha, listening to the VRC6 track in the beginning. I thought this composer is talented. Any of the selections in this piece could be developed into their own full orchestration. Then you announce the artist, and I'm not surprised. In the past, we've patted each other on the back for recognizing Rush Jet 1's work. Oh, yeah. You're correct about the DOS game properties of Keen and Duke making it to Game Boy Color. However, they are not ports. They are fabrications of people who have no idea how those games are supposed to feel. Let me be clear. They are original games. I do like the cutscenes on the Duke Nukem Game Boy Color game. They have Duke's dialogue. I haven't played through enough of the Keen one to know if they did the same with Keen. If you're looking for non-ports of PC to Game Boy Color, they also released Daikatana on Game Boy Color, but only in Europe, I believe. My comment for TCR 366 didn't make it. Maybe YouTube chopped it off. I don't know. I'll take a look. Daikatana. I remember playing the Daikatana game for Game Boy Color, and isn't that like... It's the same kind of deal. Like, that's not even close. It was like a top-down adventure game or something. Because for years I used to say the Daikatana was actually a good game, because I was only familiar with the Game Boy Color game. But to your point, it was one that I only encountered in... it was one I only encountered in the emulator scene. I never came across it in real life. So, yeah, only... arriving in Europe would make sense. Okay, I have a comment from you that says 1 week ago. Oh yeah, on 366. Yeah, here we go. The clap is still around in that first track. It's filthy with it. He's talking about the track from 2 weeks ago. I think the author is around people who talk console. Oh, actually, let me give this some context. That episode was the episode where we read the article about however many obscure MS-DOS games, and they mentioned a bunch of MS-DOS games that were good but not obscure, and the end result was just, hey, here's games I like, which is fine. Let's read this again. I think the author is around people who talk console and handheld games all day. He must not often hear Commander Keen 4 brought up in the pantheon of platformer paradigms. I don't have the numbers, but unless you got a computer real cheap or a hand-me-down, as my father did, spending $2,000 to $3,000 on a system may not have served a purpose for households in the 80s and early 90s was out of the question. Mommy and Daddy might drop $200 on a new Atari or Nintendo they might not even use, but $2,000 on a game-playing box that does the same job as a typewriter doesn't seem like a tough decision. Still love hearing people rant about the games I played on our 286. I'm in the club. We're in the club. I never knew about Super Frog because it was a Euro thing. Now I hear people on YouTube who live in those parts talk about that game being everywhere. How is the game underappreciated in Euroland. He speaks of DOS. Maybe he means DOS versions specifically. I get the impression that Amiga, Atari, Commodore, BBC, Spectrum, Acorn, Amstrad, and anything but MS-DOS machines were the machines people were running over there in the 80s and 90s. So the so the solution for the author is to hang out with a bunch of Americans who ran old DOS games. BITD. I have to look up what that means, and I don't know off the top of my head, so I'm not going to. But yeah, you raise a good point. The thing is, correct me if I'm wrong, I think a lot of the computers that you mentioned, like the Spectrum and whatnot, there was a divergence in Europe, like in the early 90s. The way it's explained to me is that when Americans were getting into Nintendo, Europe for the most part was still doing computers of some type. That's why a lot of the Europeans remember those fondly, and a lot of Americans are like, I never really got to play a Commodore 64. I don't know, my European friends. Sean, that's you. Tell us about it. Yeah, I'm right there with you. So that would indicate that people from Europe from back in the day, rightly so, it was a different region. Computers were able to connect using bulletin board systems or whatever, but it was for the most part pre-internet as we think of the modern internet. So it was largely clustered and largely localized. So it was harder to jump continents and share content that way. But yeah, man, I think to the paragraph where you were talking about reasons households bought computers, I don't think that they were sold as typewriters. I remember a lot of it hinging on bookkeeping and taxes. I know I gotta start my day. I gotta work very soon. I know, we're wrapping up. Shut up. A lot of it was like spreadsheets, were a big thing in early computing. Like, if you pop open Excel, or if you don't have Microsoft Office, if you get LibreOffice and open up the Libre equivalent of Excel, that's like Libre spreadsheet or something like that. I don't know what it's called. A DOS program with that functionality would have been big bucks. I think a lot of it was like bookkeeping and record keeping. Like being able to maintain a localized database that you could search, I think was a big selling point. But I'm just going off of largely anecdotal evidence. I think this is a really interesting topic to dig into. Why did people buy computers in the 80s? Apart from because it was my job, because that was how I got into it. My dad just worked with them for a living. Yeah. Excellent comment. Good to hear from you, brother. Sorry I missed that one. I think it was there, but I think you commented on the previous episode quickly. So when I sat down to read them, I usually read up until it said 1 week ago, and then I saw that and I was like, this must be for the previous week. I don't know how I missed that one. Yeah, sorry about that. Am I missing any for this week? I think I caught up with everything. And then there's a few assorted comments about some of the random videos I put out. Sean put a comment on my video of him at MagFest saying, that was a great time, man. Thanks for uploading this. The retro computers were the best at MagFest. Yes, they were. Oh my gosh. So much fun. I just want to do those with a little notepad so I can play all the Atari games and write down scores and stuff, so that when I play, whatever random game they have set up, if I ever find it again, I have a benchmark. Because a lot of the games that they have there in those museums, the only time I ever see them again is when I go to the same museum the following year. Somebody left a comment on my ski-free video saying, yeah, kids are liars. They did used to lie about this game. You're right. Ski Free was a game that a lot of people lied about in the schoolyard. Hey man, I can get around the abominable snowman. I just go so he goes behind a rock and then he can't get me. Everybody used to lie about that. I couldn't get away from the abominable snowman, and I remember trying. I played Ski Free quite a bit back in the day. Ski Free came out in like this sweet spot where computer gaming just started to feel awesome for me, but it was also still pretty difficult to get a hold of games. So when I did get games, I spent a lot of time with them. This is why games like Wizardry and stuff have so much what we look at now as artificial difficulty. It's designed to take you a long time to really get anywhere, so that there's more gameplay. Yeah, very, very different time. Very different time. I still like Ski Free, though. I think that's one that we should have a modern version of. That should show up as as a free game on Steam. It really should. Where is Ski Free 2? Come on now. And that's everything in the fail bag. We did it, boys and girls. Now, it is 7:19, and I start work in less than 10 minutes. So, I'm out of here. Hope you're doing well. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you next week.